Okay, so in this video we'll be discussing Lee Child's latest book, Blue Moon. So, first things first, I enjoyed the book. It was a fun Jack Reacher thriller, I guess? Are they called thrillers? Mystery story? Whatever Jack Reacher normally does, Jack Reacher was sort of doing. In fact, actually, I thought this book in some ways was a bit of a return to form. So, we had, Jack Reacher killing people, beating people up, and not to say he hasn't done that in previous books, but it just sort of felt a bit more rough and tumble, a bit more rustic. But a lot of people died in this book. I feel like perhaps Lee Child watched a bit of John Wick recently. So that was definitely reflected in the book, and it was fun, and there was some a little bit of Jack Reacher style romance as well. And so I felt like I sort of got what I was promised at the shop when I read this book. Read well. Got that typical Lee Child short prose, short sentences. Interesting, the way he sort of projects how Jack Reacher thinks is always cool. So you get what you came for in that sense. So now if you just wanted to know if the book was good, it's good. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, if that's what you're here for, then you got it. But now let's just sort of discuss. I had a couple of just sort of interesting things I noticed about this book when I was reading it. So first of all. And I'll just tackle. I mean, this first one's quite a small thing, but Jack Reacher meets this, waitress, and she looks young, and he obviously, I don't know how old he is now. He's 50s, 60, is he? I don't know. Jack Reacher's not a young guy though. And he meets this waitress, and it's like she looks young, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit awkward because what if she's if she's like 20 and Jack Reacher's like 60? That's pretty awkward. But no. She just looked young. She was actually 30, and I'm like, well, why does she have to look young? It just seems sort of weird to me. It seems a bit of an odd relationship, and that leads me into the next sort of criticism I had of this book, which is that some of the character motivations seem a little bit off or not fully fleshed out, because we're used to Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher will go kill a bunch of people for whatever reason. They're messing with someone, he'll happily deal with him, and that, I mean, we're used to that. But we sort of got a little bit of that coming from some of the background characters in this book, where these background characters are happy to risk their lives and happy to kill other people for quite small things. So, for example, this is about to get into spoilers. Spoiler time. Woo. But yeah, so this chick that he's dating, this lady not dating, this lady he's sort of I guess a mini relationship with, she got slapped by this mob and stuff, and she just doesn't like them, which is fair enough because they're kind of dicks. Or they're not kind of dicks, they're literally terrible people. But like her interaction with him really is just them annoying her at her bar and them slapping her for calling the police about something. And then she's happy to risk her life multiple times over the course of a book, and she shoots a fair few people, and she gets shot at a bunch of times, and she never really seems to have any problem with it. And it's like, this is a normal person. This is not Jack. I mean, Jack Reacher, you can shoot him all you want. He's not going to care unless he gets shot, I guess. But whereas this lady, she's just been working at a bar her whole life. Now suddenly she's being shot at and stuff, and she doesn't really seem to mind too much. I mean, there's a couple of Marines and stuff who are also, or a Marine and his his band partner, I guess, who are also involved in this. I guess you could argue they're Marines, they're used to being shot at, but even so, it just seems it's not really fleshed out why these guys are so willing to risk their lives and kill other people. In fact, and it's not really established why they'd be willing to do that. So I thought that was a little bit irksome. And the final thing I'd like to point out, and this is just, and you might, your moral compass might be a bit different to mine on this, but I don't know. I just felt like people were being killed for a little bit little this time around. I mean, these are just small fry gangsters. The main villain, all he's really doing, he's sort of working with some gangsters, which is a bit of a dick move because they're gangsters, and he's he's spreading propaganda around America, fake news and stuff. And Jack Reacher's like, boom, okay, I'm just gonna shoot you, and I'm like, death sentence for that, really? I mean, I know. I mean, that's a bit of a silly complaint coming from a guy who reads Jack Reacher. I mean, Jack Reacher kills people for lots of stuff. I just sort of, I don't know. I just sort of noticed it this time. I'm like, does this guy really deserve to die? I mean, you asked him to do something for you at the end, he did it. And you're like, haha, it was just a prank, I'm going to shoot you. And you're like, did you really need to shoot him there? I don't know. And then, of course, there's a normal Jack Reacher thing as well that's going on here, where there's no consequences. They commit lots of, kill lots of people and stuff, and there's never once any, legal repercussions. And to be fair, there is a sort of an in-universe explanation where it's like, oh, there must be some sort of agreement between the gangsters and the cops. But is it really that cut and dry where you just murder a bunch of people in the street and no one comes looking? I don't know. So I thought that was a little bit flawed. But you know what? As I said at the start, still a Jack Reacher book. Still enjoyed it. I still love the character of Jack Reacher, and I'll read the next one when it comes out. But yeah, those were my thoughts on Blue Moon. You can Some of these names are. How many Jack Reacher books do we have now? It's quite a few, so I'm starting to forget perhaps all of the individual names. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this book. Just a couple of nitpicky flaws. But yeah, pick it up if you want another Jack Reacher book. Have a great week. See you next week.